Yep, Kevin Brown. All right.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to get the concert underway here. Thank you for joining our grandparents-themed piano performance. And Michael's going to introduce himself, but this is Michael Leidig, who lives in Dedham, I believe.
Yes.
And is just a classic and jazz pianist. So we're happy to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kevin. So yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Since this is the first time that I'm here, I'll just give you a little background. I've been playing the piano since 1976. So I'm coming up in a couple weeks to my 53rd birthday. So I'll have been playing for 47 years now. So I went to 2 years of music school in Baltimore, Maryland, where I grew up. And much to my parents' great sadness, I dropped out and I joined a rock and roll band. And I toured for 3 years. And I didn't find that that was conducive to what I had envisioned with family and establishing a career. So I left that music and I went into healthcare, which brought me to Boston in 1999. And I did nutrition research. So I interned at Beth Israel Deaconess, and then I decided I wanted to go into pediatrics. So I worked at Children's Hospital for 7 years, and then I left to open up my own wellness clinic for children at the Floating Hospital for Children, which is now called Tufts Children's Hospital. And I did that for 8 years. And we actually expanded a single clinic to 5 in the area, promoting wellness for kids, in particular teens. So I loved that work, but I was feeling called back to music. And so I retired in August 2017. To come back to music, I started taking lessons again, and my instructor is from graduate from New England Conservatory. And I practiced pretty much continuously for 2 years, about 5 hours a day. I considered it a full-time job. And then I started playing out in 2019, and I was happy to have 85 shows that year. And I started performing in retirement homes, senior centers, libraries, and restaurants. Well, this year I have 750 shows. I kid you not. So, in fact, that means I play 2 to 3 shows every day of the year, except when my girlfriend requires me to take off. Now, the thing is, I share this. You can have a job, and you can have a career, and you can have a calling. And I feel music is my calling, and so it's not work. And so, for me, to not play on a day is like not brushing your teeth or not reading a book or going for a walk. And so I can play for myself, and that's fine. I would prefer to play for others. So when I play, people have described afterwards, they say, you play in a very unique way. Now that can mean a lot of things. So I'll just preface it with, I play medleys of pieces, which means I combine 2 or 3 pieces together. And though you'll see music on the screen here, or the screen on the piano stand, I do my own arrangements. And I only use the music as a guide to give me an idea of where I'm going. A lot of times I'm not even playing anything that is on the page. Sometimes I am. I do a themed program. And the theme for today is Grandparents' Day, which was 2 Sundays ago. And I tell you stories about each of the sets of pieces. So the program I start working on about 3 weeks prior to the month. So like right now, I'm actually working on my October program. But I come up with the songs, I arrange them, and then I have stories to share with you as it makes more meaningful for me, and you understand why I have chosen the pieces. So the first piece outside of the grandparents theme that I will start with is in recognition of a September morning that all of you, all of us collectively remember where we were. and that is 9/11. So I was at Children's Hospital at that time working, and those indelible moments in our lives where we pulled together as a country, for me, in my generation, 9/11 was that moment. For some of you, it might have been JFK's assassination. If you were an Elvis Presley fan, that I am, I was only 7 when he died, August 1677. It may have been that, or Pearl Harbor Day, depending on your age. So I'd like to start with September Morn by Neil Diamond. This is a beautiful piece of music from 1979. And then I'll move it into a piece by Paul McCartney from 1965 called Yesterday. And so you can think of the September yesterdays that you have had. September for me is always a month of reflection, and we're reflecting about our grandparents as well. And then the third piece, yesterday it rained, so I added in Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head by Burt Bacharach. And I grew up with Burt Bacharach's music, and in fact, the music I'm playing from is my parents. It sat on my piano growing up. And the music, there's a little sticker on it that says it was 75 cents. And you cannot buy music for 75 cents any longer. So this will be a trio of music, starting with September Morn, thinking of the events of 9/11. And then the other two pieces are really reflection pieces about love and connection, Yesterday and Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. So thank you so much for having me, and now I'll let the piano talk. Thank you very much. Thank you. So September morn, thinking of the events of September 11th, and then yesterdays, reflecting on our yesterdays that we've had, and then raindrops keep falling on my head. The theme of raindrops keep falling on, there's a sadness to it, but the lyrics are, the gentleman is, why is so much falling on my head? How much more can I take? And then he realizes this too shall pass. It's another one of those this too shall pass songs. But that reminded me of another playing for you. What happens with rain, we will get sun. This too shall pass. And if you get sun and you get rain, you oftentimes will get a rainbow. And I like to play Over the Rainbow for you. And with this piece, I'll bring in the sun by, at the very end of it, I'll play You Are My Sunshine, which is the first of 3 lullabies. And this is where we move into the grandparents phase of this program. I think of grandparents as being rainbows. Now, speaking from experience as a father, I find parents can be a little focused on the logical decision in life, hoping that a child makes the right decision for the right career, finds the right person to love. There's this logical progression. Grandparents are at that stage of life with an accumulated wealth of knowledge, so that they can step back and say, don't worry about any of that. Do what you love. There's a great quote by Howard Thurman. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and just go do it. He was a huge inspiration for Martin Luther King. So I like that quote because grandparents are like rainbows. Grandparents are all the possibilities in life. They're not logical and they are fleeting. They come and go. They come and go. And so thinking of grandparents, encouraging children, grandchildren to do what brings them happiness and joy, I'll play Over the Rainbow, and I move it into What a Wonderful World, because the world becomes a more wonderful place when you do what you love. And then I'll bring in You Are My Sunshine. So think of a grandchild that you might have, or any young one, and you're snuggling them, and you are wishing them all the beauty and the rainbows, all the possibilities for this wonderful world. Thank you very much. So, Rainbow, Over the Rainbow, I forgot to mention that came out in 1939. It's in The Wizard of Oz, of course. It's considered the most famous piece of music from a film of all time. The number two most famous is from Casablanca, As Time Goes By. And I could have played that for this Grandparents' Day. It's very hard. I know about 200 pieces of music, and when I decide I can't include every one, but that would be another wonderful one. I do that for a Mother's Day program. So what I'd like to do now for you is play what I love even more than Over the Rainbow for rainbow songs. And that song is The Rainbow Connection from 1979. Now, it is not as well known, but equally, if not more beautiful, especially the lyrics too. The opening line is, "Why are there so many songs about rainbows?" And the lyrics go on to encourage kids to shoot for your dreams. So it really connects with the grandparents' theme of being a rainbow. Came out in 1979 in the Muppet movie. Kermit the Frog sat on a log and playing his banjo, if you can remember this. Now, I am playing this because not only for the rainbow and grandparents connection, but I grew up loving Jim Henson's Muppets, and I have very few stuffed animals left, but I have Kermit the Frog with Velcro hands that I have to remember to bring it. It actually is in the car. I should have brought it in tonight, but I forgot. I'm playing next door at the library after this at 4 o'clock for a kids program. Adults are welcome too. It's an all Elvis program, and I do a book reading. I do the Elvis book, and then I interject music to give a history of his life. And I always have my Kermit the Frog just in case. And the only other stuffed animal I have is Paddington Bear, which I also brought because next door I'm playing Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear by Elvis. So anyway, I'm getting off track. That's at 4 o'clock if you're interested. So where am I with Kermit the Frog? So I spent Sunday evenings, the Muppet Show would come on, laying on my living room floor with my parents and oftentimes my grandparents watching the Muppets. So I will play that. And if you're not familiar, it goes like this. So that's the rainbow connection. So oftentimes people ask, how do you come up with these mashups or medleys of pieces? Well, every time I've ever played the rainbow connection, which I've known for a long time, I've heard this song. Frere Jacques, the second of the lullabies that I will play for you. But this gets interesting, because rather than play one song and then the next, I will start off playing Frere Jacques like I did with both hands. I'll keep Frere Jacques going on in my left hand, and in my right hand, I will play the Rainbow Connection. So if you don't know the Rainbow Connection, that's okay. You can just sing Frere Jacques the whole time. This gets fun. And then I'm not done. Last year, a resident asked me at a retirement home that I play at, she's a huge baseball fan, and she said, could you please learn Sweet Caroline and by Neil Diamond? And I said, sure, no problem. And she said, could you combine it with Take Me Out to the Ball Game? And I said, let me see if I can do it. And it just doesn't work. But even better, it works with these two pieces, same chords, and it works for September because September marks the end of the baseball season. So I only do this twice a year. I do it in spring and I do it in September. And I started playing baseball the same year that I started playing piano in 1976. And I did them both pretty good up until high school, and then I gave up baseball because I wanted to focus on music. And I think it was the better choice for me. So the third piece that you'll get is Sweet Caroline. Neil Diamond, which has, of course, been played at the middle of the eighth inning for since 2001, I think, every year. And then it had started in the late 90s, sort of sporadically, and then it became confirmed to do. The other thing, Neil Diamond, remember, returned to Boston a couple days after the marathon bombing here in Boston, and he came to Fenway to sing Sweet Caroline. And so I love this piece. Also for that, I play it as more of a lullaby. Neil Diamond wrote it after seeing a picture of Caroline Kennedy on her horse in Time magazine. And yes, so it really is, I know we hear it in the eighth inning as a raucous, and it can be that. I'll start it off in particular more of fitting with a lullaby, so it fits with Rainbow Connection and Frere Jacques. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. That was Father John ringing the bells at the end there. So the important message about Frere Jacques is embrace this moment like you're holding a little one in your arms because it's fleeting as well. Don't wake up late is the message with the lyrics. Don't be sleeping, which is a reminder, be present because this is the only moment that we have. So the next piece is from 1936, a beautiful love song that is one of the top picks for first dances at weddings, and it is The Way You Look Tonight. A beautiful piece from the musical first turned into a movie starring Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers called Swing Time. And if you haven't seen it, it's worth a look. It's a funny movie, really, really enjoyable. So this was the big hit from that song. And so the imagery, again, is for loved ones being together and grandparents having long lives and enjoying that and remembering how either our partners look or our kids or grandkids or great-grandkids. And the piece I combine with it is Close to You by Burt Bacharach. Now, most people hear Close to You and they go to the Carpenters. Now, the Carpenters did make that a big hit again in 1970. So I always play this, not only because the Close to You is a great title, thinking about being connected with our loved ones, but I was born in 1970, the year that this came out for the Carpenters, and I was very close with my grandparents because there had been a long string of girls in the family. In fact, I was one of only 2 boys, and there was about 8 girls. So nothing against girls, believe me, but there was a little bit of extra excitement because, oh wow, it's a boy. There's another boy in the family. So to carry on the family name, you know. So anyway, I love my favorite line, I really think, from any song is from Close to You. On the day that you were born, the angels got together and decided to create a dream come true. Now, that is a line that you could recite as a parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent, great-grandparent, loved one, friend, whatever. That line I love. So I use this song, The Way You Look Tonight and Close to You, to remember grandkids, grandparents remembering grandkids, great-grandkids. So here goes. Well, the next song is, well, the story behind it. My grandparents, I knew them all growing up, both sets. In fact, I saw my mother's parents almost every Sunday. We would go visit them. And Sundays, oftentimes, we would visit my father's parents as well. But they also lived very close to me, so I could walk to their home and see them often. The last of my grandparents passed away about 10 years ago now, but the matriarch of my family is my mother's mother's sister. So she is my aunt, my grand aunt, I guess you could say. And she is the matriarch, and I consider her my grandmother now. She is 101 years old, living in a retirement home. And I speak to her almost every week. She is still with it in every mental capacity and has a memory that is wonderful. So I just love calling her and chatting about stories. Well, she was a classically trained pianist that attended the famous Peabody School of Music. Now that's in Baltimore, and it's Peabody, not Peabody. When I moved up here, I had to learn how to say Peabody. And I had to learn how to say Worcester, and I had to learn how to say Woburn. When I first hear, people thought I was talking a different language when I was asking about Peabody and Worcester and Woburn. So anyway, sidetrack. Peabody School of Music. And her husband was a musician as well. Now, she was classically trained, and he was a jazz or swing band clarinetist, Benny Goodman style, and he had his own orchestra called Lou Lortz and his orchestra. And his orchestra played at Aunt Betty's high school dance. And he said to her, the host, he said, during the intermission, please set me up with the prettiest girl in the room. And that led to a long life together with kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. Now, she left and he left music. He became a dentist and she became a nurse, and they ran a dental practice together. So, yes, but they loved music, and I would sit in his green leather chair and listen to a lot of swing music. My parents didn't listen to that, so that's how I was introduced to it. So he had a big influence on my music. When my Aunt Betty was on the verge of turning 100, almost 2 years ago now, I said, Aunt Betty, what's your favorite song of all time? And she didn't hesitate. Now, if I posed that question to any of you, most people would put on their thinking faces. I have to think about that. They'd tilt their head, their eyes would go up, you know. She didn't do that. Her immediate response, it had to be you. 1924, a beautiful love song. And of course, she's thinking of her late husband, Uncle Lou. My Uncle Lou. So what I'd like to do is play It Had to Be You, and anytime you hear any music that sounds like classical, like arpeggios or like up and down, that's Aunt Betty. Anytime you hear anything that sounds like swing or jazz, that's Uncle Lou. So they each have their own little music motifs. So this is a tribute to, I consider, my grandparents, because she is still living, and it's fun for me to play. The piece I combine, if you've gotten any sense about me, you know, this guy doesn't just play one song. I don't. It's very rare. I have a hard time with it, because when I play one song, I hear another song, and that's what merges these together. So whenever I play It Had to Be You, I always heard a piece that I dedicate to my grandfather, who smoked a pipe. Now, I know that people don't smoke much anymore. I know, well, now they might, but back then, smoking tobacco. So he smoked vanilla and cherry tobacco, and I liked the smell of it. I did. I really enjoyed that smell. And so in dedication to him, I will play Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Jerome Kern. So we'll forget about the health issues, that any of that. Just let that aside and picture the cute image of a little boy sitting next to his grandfather who smoked a pipe. That's the image I want you to have, not anything else. That's it. So this goes out to my grandmother, Aunt Betty. It Had to Be You, and I'll move it into Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. That also was written by Jerome Kern, who wrote The Way You Look Tonight, was also in a musical, turned into a movie starring Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and that was called Roberta. So here we go. Thank you very much. Could you hear my Aunt Betty? You could definitely hear Uncle Lou. He didn't get much as screen time as Aunt Betty because she was a very strong-willed woman. So, which is why she's 101. She'll be 102 in February. So God bless her. I'd like to play a couple more pieces for you. There's a beautiful love poem called "Grow Old with Me," and this is read at many weddings. It's Robert Browning. The words are, "Grow old with me. The best is yet to be. When our time has come, we will be as one. God bless our love. God bless our love." A beautiful song. It's read at weddings. Yoko Ono, the wife of John Lennon, asked him to put that to music in 1980, and he did so. And if you're not familiar with that, it goes like this. So it's very basic and simple, but it follows those lyrics beautifully. And then I'll play that, and I'll keep part of it going on in my left hand, kind of like I did with Frere Jacques, and I'll move it into another beautiful love song from 1965 from the movie Dr. Zhivago. If you saw that movie, there was a famous theme song in it. It was Lara's theme, and every time Lara would come on stage, you would hear this little motif in some way. It was her motif, musical motif, kind of like I did for Aunt Betty and Uncle Lou in the last piece. They each had their own little bit to it. So Lara's theme was so popular, people left the movie theater and they're humming this song. Well, the record folks caught wind of that, and they said, "Oh, let's give it a better title." And they re-released it as "Somewhere My Love." So it's a beautiful love song. So this is, I'll play Grow Old With Me, I'll move it into Somewhere My Love, back to Grow Old With Me, then into Somewhere My Love, and I finish with the third of the lullabies that I have played for you. I played for you "You Are My Sunshine." All of you have sung that to a little one. Frere Jacques, all of you have sung that to a little one. And this is "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." So you'll listen out for that at the end. Grow Old With Me, Somewhere My Love, and "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." Oh. And if you've never heard Mozart's Variations, 14 themes on "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," it's worth Googling and watching on YouTube. That it is amazing. So he came across that song in his early 20s when he was visiting France, and he went home and he wrote variations on a theme. It is incredible. So I won't do that. Grow Old With Me, Somewhere My Love, and a basic version of "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to come into the community and play for you. It's the first time I'm here. Sarah, thank you so much for having me. And thank you all for your time and enthusiasm and allowing me to bring music in a unique way, as people might say. So thank you all so very much. I hope that I have the opportunity to return again. Thank you.
Thank you.